My name is Rachela. My maiden name is Brauner. My father's name was Abraham Brauner. My mother's name was Fela Brauner. I had 3 brothers. David Brauner, who's the only surviving brother. My second brother was Shia Brauner. He lived until the end of the war, but he did not survive. My youngest brother went together with my parents to Treblinka. Yeah, Janko Brauner. And I was born in Częstochowa. We all come from Częstochowa.
But so you were starting to tell us about
this underground.
About the underground.
My first training. I'm just telling you my first training, which this left me. It left, this goes back like more than 60 years. But this left in the back of my brain, like this. You have to go to Warsaw. This is the guy who trained me.
Who was his name? Do you remember?
I don't remember, no. You have to go to Warsaw. But you go to, in front of the railroad, you'll find there are Polacks. And they are looking for Jews. If they'll find you, if they'll know that you are Jewish, they'll sell you for a bag of sugar. So this is what you do. You'll have a gun in your boots and tell them you have money and try to bribe them. If you come across a Polak, you bribe them, go under a ruined building and take out the gun and shoot them fast. And they didn't train me how to shoot. They couldn't train me. They could only train me theoretically, but not. They couldn't train me, practically. But this is, and I thought to myself, God, how? I hope it will never come to it. But how am I gonna take out a gun and shoot? To fight? What did I know about fighting? I was a young teenager. What did I know about fighting? But this was my first training. Of course, this didn't last. They closed the small ghetto soon. I never had a chance. Thank God, I never had to do it. But unfortunately.
Did you have a gun?
No.
You never had a gun.
How would I have in the ghetto? Who had a gun? I mean, if they knew that you had a gun, you have absolutely. They would shoot you right away. Who had the gun? Who knew about the guns? But this was the. But that's how certain things stick in your head, and you just can't get rid of it.
So how old were you when the war began?
14.
14. So you were.
Yes. Oh, that's how.
And when you said that, when the big ghetto was liquidated, your parents and your family were all sent to Treblinka. Did you know at the time what was going to happen in Treblinka? Did everybody know?
See, my father was an intelligent guy. It happened the day after Yom Kippur, 1942. They closed up the big ghetto. In the big ghetto, we had, I think, more than 40,000 Jews. Everybody was clamped together in a small apartment. People came from Lodz, from surrounding towns. They came and they lived. It was very, very crowded, And then diseases, typhus broke out there. And so the day after Yom Kippur, they closed up the ghetto. You couldn't go out anymore. You couldn't go out in the street.
Or you couldn't go even within the boundaries?
No, you couldn't, it was closed, you couldn't go out in the street. And all we heard, we were sitting in the house, all we heard is shooting. Because someone went out in the street, they had no, they just shot people. And, I talk about it, it's not so good to talk about it.
Well, I don't want you to cause your pain.
It does. But, we were sitting and there was no food in the house. And we were sitting, and my parents knew that there is a Treblinka, and we didn't know the details, how it looked and how long it will takes to go to Treblinka, how they take us. But it turned out that they pushed people in every day, like they took every day 5,000 people, and they sent them to Treblinka. This was from the day after Yom Kippur. Every day, 5,000 people they took. They pushed them into wagons, into cattle wagons, and very crowded. And I believe it took like 2 days to get into Treblinka. And there was the gas, the gas chambers waiting for them. But evidently my parents knew, and they prepared us. This is what's going to happen. And the 2 weeks waiting for death, there is nothing worse. It's better to be dead than waiting for death. The 2 weeks, it was just terrible. I imagine just looking at my parents, how much they suffered, watching us, here they brought us up, their hope was so great that they had such nice children. I had 3 brothers. They had 4 nice children and something to look forward. And here they look at us and here we're going to die. I looked at my parents and I'm sure I knew how they felt. But this was terrible. But during these few days, our deportation was the last one. This was also a Jewish holiday, a Simchat Torah. You're familiar with Jewish holidays. This was the Simchat Torah. This was the last deportation. Was our deportation. And. But from the day after Yom Kippur till the Simchat Torah the 2 weeks was terrible. We couldn't go out of the house. But my father went next door to my neighbors, and there was a son and a doctor, a son and a father, 2 doctors. And they committed suicide. They had the possibilities to, because they had the injections. They injected themselves, and there were two. And my parents were in the early 40s, and they saw the 2. My father saw the 2 people dead lying on the floor. It made them terrible. Terrible impression. And he came in, and my parents were very religious people. And he came in. My father opened up the door. He came in. He was so shook up. He came. He opened up the door, and he with his hands, he said, "Where is God? Where is God?" We didn't know what happened. We didn't know, but he was so shook up with it. And my mother was sitting in the corner, very sad. And she said to my father, "If God wants this way, that's how it's going to be. That's how. This is the way my mother was. So my mother believed in God so much. So she was she's such a devoted religious person. And she thought that if God wants it this way, that's how it should be. And this also made such a terrible impression. And then, a day later, or it was a day maybe before, or a day later, I don't remember exactly the day, my father fainted, you know, from all this
Stress.
yeah, he fainted. And my neighbors came in. We screamed. We saw him dead, almost dead on the floor. And we screamed, and my neighbors came in. And some of them screamed, "Let him die! He's a saint! Let him die! Let him die!" This made such a terrible impression on me. Let him die! Let him die! Well, that took, but he revived, and the day of Simchat Torah, they chased us out from the house. So they made a line. They lined us up, the women and the children, in one line, and the men are like maybe 5-6 feet apart, another line. And I remember my father ran out of he risked his life. He ran out of the line. He risked his life because they could have shot him if a German was there. He would have. He ran out of the line, and he came over to me and to my mother, and he took my mother's hand and my hand, and he said, "Stay together." And he clasped our hands. He said, "Stay together. Don't let these hands go." And he ran back to his line. But they were so fast. They chased us so fast. And the men went first. I believe the men went first, and then the women. And then I go with my mother and holding my hand. And then there was this. And as we go around the corner, this Degenhardt. You heard about Degenhardt. I must ask you a question about Degenhardt. And Degenhardt stays with a stick, and he with his stick he separated my hand from my mother, and the stick wound up on my hand, so it was very painful, and I curled myself down because it was so painful, and then I stood up very fast. And I cried, "Where's my mother? Where's my mother? Where's my mother?" My mother was gone. They chased them so fast. You can't imagine how. And I was crying because he made me go to, I should live and the others should die. So he made me go one side and my mother on the other side. And that's how you are listening to this. So this don't take it hard. This is past. I'd like to talk to the children. I do talk. It took me a long time. It took me many years to open up my mouth to talk to my children. But finally, I did take. It helps. It's much healthier for you when you can talk. But that was the end. And they took us to near for a few weeks. We stayed under Jasna Gora. They concentrated us there, slept there under Jasna Gora, and we worked in the
park.
No, on the other side of it. On the other side of Jasna Gora. Golgotha, they called it Golgotha. The place was called Golgotha. And that's a few weeks we slept there and we worked in the ghetto. This is also something that I can't forget. We worked in the ghetto. We cleaned out the ghetto.
Cleaning up. Yeah.
And can you imagine? They assigned me to go to my own house to clean out my own house. Can you imagine this? In those days, it didn't bother me because I didn't know if I'll live till tomorrow. I didn't know. It didn't bother me. But I only remember I opened up the closet where my mother had they prepared a trousseau for the girls, you know, like when a girl was born, they prepared like linens, and when she gets married, she should have everything ready. So I don't know, it was all brand new, you know, all brand new. It was so beautifully, you know, placed with the labels, so beautiful. The labels I remember were, you know, on a dark, you know, with the what do you call it?
Ribbon?
Lace.
Border?
No, not border. The border was, what do you call this?
I think lace. I think you're right.
Trimming.
What?
You mean lace?
No, not lace. No, this was, it was embroidered, hand embroidered with gold on dark. The shape, what do you call this shape?
Scallop?
Scallop, right. Scallop. The labels were scallop about this big. And you know, it's in
And
front
this
of...
was your trousseau, because you were the girl.
I don't know if it was my trousseau or it was her trousseau. I don't know if she prepared it for me or it might very well be, it was brand new. It might very well be her trousseau, you know, because, you know, everything was brand new, you know. And I remember, this is what, and you know, there was plenty, you know, dishes and silver and I don't remember it, but I remember opening up that closet and that trousseau, everything was brand new. And can you imagine? I had to, they assigned me to my own house to clean out my own house. But you know, that time it didn't bother me because I didn't know if I would be alive tomorrow. You know, especially, you know, material things really didn't mean anything to me because they came to my house. You can take a hand luggage, a handbag, and go. So we have to leave everything. So material things didn't mean a thing to me. So this was how I. That's what I remember. That's what I remember. That stuck in my hand. You know, certain things stuck in your hand that you see it as if it happened yesterday. So this is what.
So after the cleanup, you then were sent to Hasek?
No, after that place, I don't remember how long we were there in the Golgotha. This was right behind the Jasnagura. The Jasnagura on this side was the park.
On the other side.
On the other side was I don't.
But it's where it's more like a hill.
Yeah, I really don't remember, but I remember we slept there. Then they opened it. Took a few weeks there, and they opened up this small ghetto.
This was the big ghetto to the small ghetto.
This was the big ghetto. I'm talking about right after the big ghetto when we lost our loved ones.
Right.
And this was the place where we stayed. And then they built this new ghetto, this small ghetto, which were only 3 streets, I believe, in this small ghetto. But this was the.
So. Symbolically, I hear your father wanted you to stay together, and Degenhardt, by beating you, saved your life.
Yeah, Degenhardt. Yeah, tell me, Degenhardt, did he survive? Did he survive the war?
I'm not sure. I think he was actually. I'm not sure. I believe he was caught and executed. With a trial after the war.
Because I remember, I used to go to the Częstochowa, and there was once an announcement that if you know about Degenhardt, you should give the testimony. You should testify. And I mean, I knew him. I had no way to go to Germany to testify. But I knew him. He was like the angel of death. They used to call him Malchamovus. You know, in Hebrew it's called the angel of death is called Malchamovus. Yeah, that's what he was of Częstochowa. This was the. But the thing is, I read on the website when it came out with the Częstochowa. I read on the website. He had, I I don't know the relationship, but there was Helenka Tenenbaum. Did you hear about this? Does it sound familiar? This was his, I don't know the relationship, his girlfriend, I don't know. I only know that he, there was an officer who came, she had an apartment with the ghetto with her brother. And an officer came in the morning, he picked her up and walked her to Degenhardt's, I imagine to Degenhardt's
Apartment? Or office?
I don't, probably the place where he lived. And
Every day?
Every day, and he brought her home. She had a very nice apartment, like not in the ghetto, nobody lived like. But I read on the website. Are you familiar? Do you know?
Yeah, I read it too.
On the website that she wanted to be. She was so beautiful. She was like a goddess. She was so beautiful. Not only beauty, but she had so much charm. She had so much. You couldn't help. You had to love her. So she wanted to be like Queen Esther. She wanted to save the Jews. And so she was very close. I don't know the relationship between them. I don't know.
Unfortunately, I don't really know either, but I think my father did. And all we have is on the website is actually this is Leah's mom's memory of her as a friend. Leah Walnuts, her mother is very involved in all these things. I'll see if I can learn more about it. But Degenhardt, I think, is what happened to him is someplace on the web, so we'll look it up.
But yeah. That's what I read on the website. Yeah,
Right.
that his wife. Right. That's what I read on the website. His wife came to visit him from Germany.
He found out.
And she was wearing this Helenka was wearing a dress like she has, something like this. And she found out, she reported it to the Gestapo, I think. And they sent him to the Russian
Front.
To the Russian front, right. They sent him to the Russian front, and her brother, they shot in his garden. They shot him in the back in his garden. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just don't know. I don't know more than you know. So,
But that's what I wanted to know, because when I found out about them when I was concentrated in the sea, like June, they closed up the ghetto, the small ghetto, and they concentrated us. I was concentrated in Rakov. This is also a part of Hassan.
yes.
And most people were in Pizzeri, yeah. And there was a Varta. There were three
factories.
Yeah. So I was concentrating in Rakov, and all I found out is one day that they were shot. They were shot in his garden.
Was she a friend of yours, or she was much older?
She was much older, but he was a friend of mine, her brother.
I see.
So I really, that's all I know about them.
I can tell you a little bit that I know, but let me ask you first, so what was your experience or knowledge of my father? I'd very much like to hear.
Not much. I only know that he was active in the underground.
Did you know that during the war?
This war, I'm talking about.
Yeah, but
the war.
I mean, you knew it during the war, not
in the small ghetto. In the small ghetto.
So when you were there,
and also he was a head of the workers on Garbaldiego, I think.
Right.
Are you familiar with it? Because my oldest brother, was working on Garbaldiego, and he liked him a lot.
was he part of the group?
of the group in the Angarba ghetto, because they were working good. They sent them out. I'm not very familiar with, but I know your father would send people out to work.
Right.
Certain places.
Right.
That's how I'm not very familiar with that.
Well, I'll tell you what I know, which is that, or how I understand it. He convinced, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he worked for the civilian police. Who was the police chief? The acting mayor of Częstochowa? The German who was the civilian.
Oh, the German.
Yeah.
German, I don't know.
Okay.
I know the police, the police chief in the small ghetto, and he was in the big ghetto probably too.
Who's that? You mean Parasol?
Who?
Parasol?
Parasol, yeah.
Parasol was the head of the Jewish police.
But the Jewish, yeah, I'm talking about the Jewish
Right.
police, yeah.
But there was also a German policeman, a captain, who was the civilian head, not Gestapo, was the civilian head for the administration of Częstochowa. And my father convinced him that he could provide him with workers to do different kind of work, plumbing, telephone,
So this is probably,
locksmith. And he put together workers with different skills, and they were trusted to go from place to place to do different jobs, to clean up apartments, to fix it up if an officer was coming with his wife, to fix the switchboard if it broke, to repair things.
That's what it is.
And what I believe is that every one of the members that he hired to be part of this group were in the underground. That every one of the craftsmen, some of them were not even such good craftsmen, but they were all people to be trusted
to be
in the underground.
You know.
So how did your brother get involved? Do you know?
My brother worked there.
So,
I don't know how he. I don't know how.
Was he involved in a youth group before the war?
No.
No.
Not in that. In the youth group. No.
You know, the Zionist groups or something.
Yeah, he was in Beitar. Yeah, he
so
was.
that's the reason. See, this is how they trusted each other. They knew each other from their Zionist connections before the war.
Yeah. He was in Beitar. Yeah.
And so most of them were fighters. They were really, so while they were doing repairs
Oh yes, yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
they were also doing missions.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that I know. Yeah. That's.
But do you know that during the war? Or you learned after the war?
No. I after the war, I learned very little.
So I'm very interested. How did you know? What did you know? Because I
During
never
the
heard
war,
this.
because I'm telling you, I only learned it from from the I don't know that much, but whatever I know, I learned it in the ghetto.
But how did you know? I mean, because for me, it's very hard to understand. I mean, I know this.
I'm just
What I
saying-
know is very little, but I know it from people after the
I'm
war.
just telling you how these two boys came over to
Yeah.
me, and they tried to
Recruit you.
recruit me. That's how. But you know something, it was very in the underground. You know, it's very clandestine. You know, one group didn't know what the other group was doing.
Right.
They didn't. This was understandable. You know, in case they catch you, but also, you know, like there was a Polish, I don't remember, Armia Krajowa or Armia Ludowa.
I think it's Krajowa. It's the right wing.
Semites.
Yeah.
Terrible. And some boys from the group from the ghetto went to the woods. They shot them. You know, the Armia Krajowa. I'm not. That's what I heard. They shot, and I remember a group. They brought them back to the ghetto because two boys were shot. Not dead, not killed.
But
But they were shot. They were shot, and one was in the arm, one was in the leg. They had to come back. The whole group had to come back because that I remember too.
So the story, one story that I know that my father told me, but again, I don't know if this is Halenka or not, was he told me that at the switchboard, at the telephone switchboard, you know, the old days, you had to connect phone calls to an operator. The telephone switchboard for the main administration of the city, the operator was the Jewish mistress of somebody. Maybe Helenka, maybe somebody else.
Uh-huh.
Somebody important.
I didn't know anybody,
but
any
trusted.
Jewish mistresses except Helenka.
So, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
It's probably her. But her job was, because she was trusted, was because you could hear the conversations, was to work the switchboard. And my father several times would get a call, a summons, that something was broken in the electrical system at the telephone system. Please come and repair it. And that was his skills, one of his skills. So somebody else didn't go, he went. And when he was there, she would tell him, I heard such and such is going to happen. Please warn, please tell, whatever had to be done. He said that even though he was getting such an important message, his actions, as you were saying earlier, he never trusted anybody. So he would never say, yes, I understand, or, okay. He pretended not to hear. He finished the job, and whatever was broken, because they would especially break a wire, fixed the wire, went and gave a message that said, I don't know if we can trust it or not. It could be a trap. It could be a real thing. But there were other people who maybe decided what to do about this. Or they would consider what to do about it as a group. I'm not really sure. But several times he was called to the switchboard, and he told me about this lady. And I don't know if it's Helenka or somebody else.
I know she wanted to save the Jews. She wanted to be like Queen Esther.
Yes, it sounds like it. Yeah.
She was so charming. She was so beautiful, and she had something in her that you can't explain. So she thought maybe, but this is, but on the website I didn't know that this is what happened. That his wife came and she reported them to the Gestapo.
So,
that was shocking to me.
One of the interesting things is, of course, we talk about history being, for testimony is the best, but people's memories, even a day later, or months or years later, are never the same. People have different versions of the same thing, so we never know exactly. There was you mentioned your friend who tried to beat up the German. There's a story, and I can't remember the square. Remember the square we were at, Eric? They call it now Martyrs Square, but it had a name. Sigmund writes about it in the album, so I can look it up. But there's his version of where a young girl, but who was in the underground, took out a gun and tried and pointed it at the German commander and shouted to everybody, "Listen, we can resist. Don't go like sheep." And during this few minutes, the Germans actually cowered. Really cowered and said, listen, I'm not going to hurt you. Don't be afraid. And of course it wasn't true. And then when she pulled the trigger, the gun didn't work.
This is what I was afraid of. This is what I was, they are teaching me, you take out the gun and shoot. And I didn't know how, how, if you're not trained, sometimes the gun, how can you, this is what I was always afraid of,
Right. So, of course, immediately the Germans came with their rifles and they shot few people at weapons.
And they shot not only
and then they shot every 20, but the difference was they shot every 20th person, but the rest were killed a day later. A different kind of death. I mean, I'm not sure what the difference was in terms of, who felt more vindicated or better about it. But when I heard the story, as Sigmund told it, he was a witness. He saw it from an attic where he was hiding.
Yeah.
But he was a young boy at the time. He was maybe 12 years old or 13. And it's also, I found it in a history book, in somebody else's book about that event. And I think I read it a third place. And each story is a little different. One was a woman, another was a man. These were witnesses, but who knows what really happened. It doesn't really matter, except that if you want to say if it's not exactly right, something is wrong. But the truth is still what happened. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man. This event was recorded, and people know it, and there were some very brave people. It's very interesting that when the Jews had guns in their hands, the Germans were afraid. That they actually...
But when they... But there was no German, I don't think there was a German who did not have a gun in his hand.
They didn't want to die. You know, it was easy for them when they thought the Jews were going, you know, would just follow their directions. And they were very good at psychological warfare, knowing that if you rush people along, they can't catch their breath and they can't, you know, build up the fear and build up the submissiveness.
Mm-hmm.
They're, you know, fortunately they're
Now
experts.
tell me, what do you think of the Jewish police?
What do I think? Well, I'm not in a position to judge.
No, but in general, what do they, how do they feel about the Jewish police?
I think the way it's usually described is people did whatever they could to save themselves. And they rationalized that they were doing some good because if they didn't provide their guidance, the Germans would do worse. But whether it's the Judenrat, or the Jewish police, or individuals, I'm sure for everybody it was a mixture of saving themselves and feeling that they were doing something that was of value, that if they weren't making these decisions, the Germans put people in untenable positions where if they didn't make difficult choices, worse choices would be made. But in the end, they were part of the machinery. But I don't think it's right. I know I can't judge. You know, I think you can judge, but I don't know what to say. How do you feel?
How do I feel? I feel Judenrat. Let's start with Judenrat. Judenrat, I'm sure no one in my family would ever volunteer for Judenrat. I'm sure that in my family, my father would never volunteer.
What's the difference between Judenrat and Jewish police?
They were the governing body.
The Judenrat was the councilor.
Yeah. And the police was just the police, you know, like here, like any other police, you know. But I'll tell you, in the police, Judenrat, you know, some people wanted to save their life. They saved. If you work for the Judenrat, you could save your immediate family, your entire immediate family, your wife, your children, your grandchildren. That's what. But you have to be responsible too. You know, like the Germans came. Now you have to deliver 5,000 people to the death chamber, and they had to deliver the 5,000 people. They had to deliver. Now I don't know. I would rather die. I would rather die, and not to deliver 5,000 Jews to the Germans. I mean, this is where, and I'm sure my father or my brothers, I'm sure they would do this. I'm sure they would do the same thing. But yet, it's very hard to judge. You know, they wanted to save their families, to save a family for thousands of people. You have to, I don't know. It's very hard to judge. But there were people, even the police, in the Jewish police, there were people who were good people. And not so good people. Now I'll tell you about Parasol. What happened to me once with Parasol. This is a personal. This I can tell you. I had two brothers in the small ghetto, and they came to arrest my older brother. They came to my room, to my house, in the ghetto, in the small ghetto, to arrest him. They wanted to send him to Blizhin. There was they sent to Blizhin. There was. Nobody came back alive from there. So my older brother wasn't home. My younger brother was home. So they took my younger brother. You bring your older brother will come, who will release you. You go home, but your older brother has to come. I came home from work, and I hear this. I ran over to the police. Because I knew that my younger brother's in the police, he's arrested in the police, and I cried, and I to this Parasol, and I cried, and I said, all I have is my two brothers. Please let him go. Please let him go. He said, no, you'll bring your older brother. then I'll release the younger brother. And I pleaded with him. I begged him. Nothing happened. And I walked out, and I was crying, and I walked out, and the door slammed after I walked out, and he thought that, I don't know, it's the wind or something, because I can't imagine that I would slam the door. Maybe I did, I don't know. Maybe I did, but I can't imagine that I would slam the door. But the wind, it was, they didn't have air conditioning, the cross ventilation probably slammed the door after me. And this parasol opened up the door, and he ran after me. He grabbed me in the back. You go to jail for slamming the door. And he took me, there was no jail, no jails for women. He took me, he put me in a room, and I was sitting there. So I was in one jail, in this room, really jail. I couldn't go out. I couldn't go. My second brother was in the real jail, and my brother heard that he was hiding. But can you imagine for slamming? Even if I slammed the door, he ran after me. He grabbed me in the back. You go, and he threw me into that room. He threw, this is also something that it's unhumane. And I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I have nothing. I can't say that he was a human being to do something to a 15-year-old child to put her in jail because the door slammed. So these are my memories. These are my memories.
This guy survive?
No. His son
No,
is
they
alive.
took the who?
His son is alive,
Yeah,
and his son is actually a nice man.
really.
He lives in San Francisco.
Really.
Apparently, his parents had made some arrangements. I'm not sure what. When they knew they were being taken, the whole Judenrat and all the Jewish police were taken. They smuggled him to the other side of the wall, to outside the ghetto.
Oh.
I don't know if they sent him to someone or he was just rescued. He survived the war. When the war was over, some Jews recognized him and said, "Come," and they put him in an orphanage in a program. He went to Israel. Then he came here to the United States, and he lives well. And he was very touched by all of this. He came to,
So you see.
I know these stories, but I forgive the Germans. If we can live with the Germans and the Poles, I think we can live with our Jewish police and children also.
No, I'm just telling you what I remember. These things are just stuck in, because it bothered me terrible that I didn't do anything. What did I do? And I remember how he grabbed me in my back, and you are going to jail. Then the shift changed. The shift changed because there was also a curfew in the ghetto. Till 8 o'clock, you could only go out till 8 o'clock. You can only walk outside till 8 o'clock. And then the night shift came in, and another Jewish policeman came over to me, and what happened? So he took me home. He walked me home because I couldn't walk by myself. But he walked me home.
And what happened to your brother who was in the jail?
To my brother, they let him out. And my older brother, he didn't survive. My older brother, they caught him a few days later. They caught him and they sent him to Blizhin. Blizhin was, nobody came back alive from Blizhin. But from Blizhin they sent him to Radomsko to work. And he escaped, which was unbelievable. He escaped and he came by train. He came in the small ghetto. He came back to the small ghetto, which was something unbelievable.
He came back, but then
He came back to the small ghetto, and in the small ghetto, he stayed until they dissolved the ghetto. And then I had this brother, this younger brother, was also in the small ghetto. He survived the small ghetto, and they concentrated us in Rakov. So we were all three together in Rakov.
What work did you do in Rakov? Or what was
Oh, I was very lucky. I had. Do you know Glicksman? Did you hear about Glicksman? He was the head of the Jewish of the Jews. He was the head. He gave me. I was very, very lucky. At the beginning, what work? I'll tell you what work I had. First of all, I had very hard work. They brought wagons of coal, and with pails we had to transfer the coal. A wagon is a lot of coal with little pails to transfer to a different place.
Yeah, wagon, you mean a train car?
A train car, yeah. And they give you so much time, and if you don't do it on time, they'll shoot you. So this was very hard work. It was terribly hard. So I found another work to clean the barracks. To clean the barracks, this was terribly hard. I couldn't. You know, we lived on a slice of bread and a soup, and I just had no strength to carry this. So I found another job. This job was cleaning the barracks, the men's barracks. But after the cleaning was not bad. It was bearable. But after the cleaning the barracks, I had to clean the toilet. This wasn't exactly a toilet. You can't call it a toilet, but it was just I couldn't take it. It was. I don't even know what you call it. Not, you know, it was. I had to clean.
A ditch in the ground.
Yeah. But the board was full of
Pieces, right.
And I had to clean it. I couldn't take the smell. Every time after I finished, but I had to do it. After I finished, I went to my barrack to lie down, and I felt so sick. Finally, one day I fainted, and that time, and this was evidently my luck that I fainted. And this Glicksman, he changed my job, so he gave me a job to slice bread. Now, I was in that camp a year and a half to slice bread, so I had enough bread to eat. And I had two brothers that time, and I could help them out with bread. So I was very happy. So this was the situation that helped, that really saved my life.
Really? And Glicksman was Jewish, or?
Glicksman, no, he was the Lagerführer, the Jewish Lagerführer. But he, you know, he gave me, this was a great job.
Sure.
So this is all, and then my brothers also, my two brothers, they were still in the connected with the underground, and my one brother was. And they arrested him and tortured him in front of my eyes. And you know, when you have a brother, you know, when you live normal life, you know, you fight, you laugh, you play together. It's a normal. We grew up normal. But you know, when after a tragedy strikes, you know, it's a different relationship. And here they tortured me. They tortured him in front of my eyes. This was also
Did you try to get information from him, or just to punish him?
No, when they arrested him, I don't know. When they tried to get information out of him later on, but this wasn't him. But here they tortured him in front of my eyes, and I got so hysterical. And I remember I stopped crying. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't control my cry. And two doctors from the infirmary came in. And they picked me up upside down and they shook me like a chick. That's when I come down. That was the end of my brother, and I never saw him again. And I understand. I heard that he lived in a concentration. He lived in a concentration until the end of the war.
Do you know which one?
I don't remember. I knew at the time when, you know, someone survived with him, but he
And your older brother, was your older brother also younger than you or older than you?
No, I was the youngest.
You were the youngest, okay. And your older brother?
My older brother survived. He's
Survived?
in Israel, yeah.
Oh, how wonderful. Where does he live in Israel?
Tel Aviv.
That's very nice.
So we came to Bergen-Belsen
You went by train? They took you by train?
by
Very
train, yeah.
In cattle cars or open cars?
And in closed car.
Closed cars. The reason I ask is my cousin and Eric actually got this call recorded. Went by open car, I believe, to, I'm not even sure where. He ended up in Buchenwald. But he also went from place to place to place.
The men, they did not go to Buchenwald. The men went to Buchenwald. The girls to Bergen-Belsen. We were at 500 women.
Okay.
This is all from Częstochowa, not only from Rakov. In Rakov there were very few women, but from Hazard,
And you're right, let me know.
500 women. We came to Bergen-Belsen, and they took everything away from us. We had to naked, completely. We gave up everything, naked, and they chased us outside, and they took a hose, a water hose, but in the winter, and they sprayed us. They gave us a shower with that, but the water was so powerful. I don't know what kind of hose. This was probably like a fire hose. That some women couldn't keep balance. They felt that, And I remember from the hair. I had long hair, and it was freezing cold. And they let us stand there freezing. They let us stand there for hours. Then they gave us a barrack. They took us to a barrack. They gave us a barrack. We slept on the floor without windows. And then in Bergen-Belsen, I thought, Bergen-Belsen, I'll never survive. I can't survive here because first of all they had typhus, dysentery, and it was so bad. They tortured us like in a nice day, that day like today. They wouldn't let us outside. We had to stay in the barrack. In a rainy day when it was pouring, they chased us out and we had to stand all day in the rain. The rain was, or they did water spare. You couldn't use water.
How long?
A whole day. Closet spare. You couldn't go to the bathroom.
So each day a different punishment.
A different punishment. I'll tell you, it was such torture. So a guy came to Bergen-Belsen. He said he needs people to work. So I was the first one to run to work. I want to work, but I can't. I knew that in Bergen-Belsen I will never survive. And I schlepped along all my friends, and they didn't want to go. Because they didn't believe the Germans. They thought that they are going, which is true. They are taking them to
Kill them.
to kill them. Yeah. But I had such a feeling that I must live here because here I'm not going to survive. So we went. A whole group went. And they took us to Dachau. Instead of going to work, they took us to Dachau. But
So it was a trick.
For us, it worked out good.
This time, Yaakov must have been the same time in Bergen-Belsen, right?
No, wasn't Yaakov in Buchenwald? Or maybe I'm mixing it up.
You didn't know somebody by name? What was his name?
His name was Jacob Schwartz.
I didn't see any men there. In Bergen-Belsen, I saw only women. So I thought this was only for women, but it wasn't, because men were there too, but I didn't see, I saw only women there. And
Were the German guards women or men?
no, women.
Women.
And I remember every day they came, I came, the women, they came in the morning, they came appel, you had to go outside, and they counted us, every morning they counted. There were 2 women, you know, they were dressed in a uniform. 2 beautiful, beautiful women. You would never think that but they screamed, they're not like human beings, but they scream like lions, you know that. But only women. I don't ever remember a man there. I never saw a man in Bergen-Belsen. But anyways, when we left Bergen-Belsen, we were in also like cattle cars, also closed trains. But like cattle cars, we stayed we laid out, you know, we were laying on the one on top of the other, and right before Dachau, the railroad was bombed. You know, it reminds me. No, we had. Idziesz teraz do domu?
Jeszcze nie.
A, jeszcze nie. Powiedz mi, jak pójdziesz. And when what's our senator? Schumer. He was here once in our shul. When he was running for Senate, he was here to, you know, and he was talking. Why didn't we bomb the railroad to Dachau, to Treblinka? And I thought to myself, gosh, I was in this position where they bombed the roads to Dachau, and I was right there. And how much I suffered. If he would only know how much I suffered after bomb. And this is what he was talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. Why didn't they bomb the railroad? You know what? I was 2 weeks, because they bombed the railroads. I was 2 weeks in the wagon. For 2 weeks, not a drop of water, no food, and people died because they had, you know, from Bergen-Belsen, they were sick already, typhus and dysentery. They died in the wagon, and they took them out. The Germans took them out and just threw the bodies out. And every morning you wake up and you look if this one to your left or your right, if they are alive. This was terrible. These 2 weeks were terrible.
2 weeks without water.
But not only water, but suffering. This is suffering without water, without food. 2 weeks. Finally, they moved and they took us to Dachau. And Dachau was I felt that when I came to Dachau, I felt that you have more chance of surviving. Because, I don't know, it wasn't so, see the Dachau, direct Dachau, they had barracks there, they had more humane living, they lived more, but Dachau itself was for political prisoners, not for us. We were in the Usher Commando Dachau. We lived in a ditch, you know, like a ditch, and hay, straw. We slept on straw, and the straw was infested with bugs, with lice, with bugs. But there was a certain bugs that used to eat us alive. They ate us alive, you know. Especially those bed bugs. I think they eat you alive, you know. And we weren't alone in Dachau. So and we heard that the Americans are closer coming in, and finally the last days they closed up camps where we were camped. You can't, it was a terrible, it was so terrible to live there, because it was just like in a ditch, and in straw. And that straw was so terrible, infested with such bugs. And so finally it came the end of war. Now the end of war came. They wanted to destroy this. They didn't want the evidence. They didn't want the Americans that are coming. They didn't want the Germans. They didn't want to the Americans should see in what circumstances the people lived here. And this camp was also camouflaged in woods. It was in woods. And all the officers, all the higher rank officers, they were all gone that day. And they deported all the Jews. They deported.
Where?
They called it the March on Tyrol. The March on Tyrol was they were just walking and dying on the way.
Right.
So I don't know what happened to not all of them died. That's for sure, because this was only a matter of day or two. But on the March on Tyrol, the people died on the way, walking on the way. So we were very brave. There was one barrack with hay, and 4 girls, 3 of my friends. In the back there was a little window of this barrack, and we opened up through this little window. The little window was that big, and we pushed ourselves in under the hay. Under the hay you can't live, you choke. So, and here, from the front came in, I remember from the front came in, a few girls came in, they had the same idea. They thought, they are chasing them, the rest of the people they are chasing. And two or three girls came in, they had the same idea, but they came in through the front. And the Germans saw them come in, and they screamed that here we were under the hay, and they were over us, and they were screaming, and the Germans came in screaming, "Heraus, heraus, heraus, or else I'll shoot." So they ran out, and we heard no shots. And we were under the hay. You can't choke. Any minute you can die. And finally we heard the last steps. We heard how they walked like this. They couldn't walk. They had no strength to walk. They chased them, but we heard no more walking. So one of the girls walked out, and she said she's going to find out what's going on, if we can go out. She goes out, and here every second is a you can die, and she doesn't come back so fast. She wanted to find out what's going on, and then she didn't come back. So we all 3 of us walked out, because we couldn't live there anymore. Under that terrible feeling, terrible, choking is a terrible death. So we went out, and all the officers, the higher rank, all of them are gone. There were only two Germans, young guys, but the lowest,
Right.
and so stupid, 2 stupid guys, really stupid guys. But they're working with the rifles, and we were pleading with them. Let us out. We told them that we have money in Switzerland. Our parents left us. We made up the stories. Our parents left us money in Switzerland. We'll go out, we'll save you, let us out, and we'll give you the money. We have so much money.
By this time, you and everybody in this situation spoke German good, or?
We spoke German because we lived for 5-6 years under German occupation. So we spoke German. You had to know German. I mean, and nothing doing. They wouldn't let us out, and they told us they are only waiting for They are only waiting for a call because they're going to burn down this camp here, and they're only waiting for the order. They're gonna burn down this camp because they want to wipe out the evidence. They don't want the Americans to see what was going on here. And nothing helped. Nothing helped. It was dark already, and we didn't go back to that place where we slept, but we slept outside on the grass outside. We fell asleep, and in the morning we wake up, and the gate is open. I don't know. God opened up the gate. I don't know. I really don't know. This was the greatest miracle. And we ran out, and this was in the woods. We stayed in the woods about one night or 2 nights, maybe, I don't remember. And we heard these shouts, like from
Machine gun?
not only machine guns, from that
Artillery?
artillery, yeah. And we heard, and we thought that like the trees are falling, but it wasn't even in this place. But it was so loud. It was such a horrible, such a horrible feeling. But we thought that the trees are going to fall over us. And we stayed. I don't remember 1 night or 2 nights, and then we went out. Then it was freedom. But that freedom wasn't like everybody reacts different to freedom. I didn't react so good to the most people, they were happy, and we had a good reason to be happy, we won the life, yesterday, a day before, I didn't know if I'll live today, and now here you are free, which is great. But something, I walked out of that. Concentration camp, and I with such a heavy heart. What's waiting? I realized that I have to face reality now. Now I have to face reality. I'm so alone. I have nobody in this world. I'm so like born from a stone. What am I going to do? Who am I going to talk to? I have nobody to talk to. Nobody. To face reality, was the worst thing. Whereas most people, we pray that some people got married already. They were happy. And it took me a long time to face life. It took me a long time.
What did it mean to be free? Did you have food? Did you?
Yeah. No, I don't even remember how I got food. We went to the store. We went into a store. They gave us food. The Germans. They knew that they are losing. That they lost. And then I remember an American officer came. We were in the street, and we had nothing to wear, nothing. And an American officer came, and the stores most of them were closed. And an American officer came to he made a German open up. He had a shoe store, and he made them open up the store. And he said to us, a group that was already a group of people, go in and take as many boots, as many shoes as you want. And we did. I didn't take that many. I just took for myself 1 pair of shoes. And one of my girlfriends had typhus, so they took her right away. The Red Cross took her to the hospital. And I took a pair of shoes for myself, and I took a pair of shoes. If she comes out of the hospital, she should have the pair of shoes. But and this German starts crying to this American guy, look what they're doing to me, look what they're doing to me. And this American officer said, look what you did to these people. A a few pairs of shoes he lost, and he was crying to the American officer, "Look what they are doing to me." So this is my memory. Now this goes back exactly 60 years. The
Deliberation.
liberation.
Yeah. But you have good memory. I mean, you have your mind is very clear.
Certain things, not everything. You can't remember everything, but certain things it just sticks to you. You can't get rid of it.
So just, I don't want to take you through every detail, but so from Dachau was near Munich, right?
Dachau was near Munich, yeah.
So after that, how did you find your way here?
How did I find it? I found my brother. First of all, you know, they had a lot of DP camps. They opened up right away. They opened up a lot of DP camps, and I used to go. There was no transportation, no postage, no telephone, no communication. So what we did when I went from one camp to another, and also I hitchhiked, you know. And how do you hitchhike? I went to the military governor, and I asked him to give me a paper. I should be able to hitchhike. You know, they should, because I there were no cars, no German car, only the military cars, the military trucks, and I asked him to give me a piece of paper that they should take me. They should be able to pick me up, and they took me from one place to another, you know, and that's how I hitchhiked. But that's
you went looking for your brother?
I was looking not only for my brother, for my friends. I knew nobody is alive from my family because they died in Treblinka. I had only 2 brothers, and so I had only hope for this oldest brother, and I had a vague hope for my younger brother. And my friends, that's all I was looking for. So when we went from one camp to another, all we did, we wrote on the wall. I wrote my name, where I am, where I live, and someone evidently picked up my name and they went to Poland. My brother went right after. He was in a different in a concentration camp, in the Russian place, and he went straight back to Poland. And he evidently someone picked up my name and he gave it to him. And they told me, I knew that a lot of people came back from Poland, and they told me that my brother's alive. But you know, just telling just words didn't mean to me anything. Well, but I don't know how am I gonna unless I know definitely that he's alive. I will believe it. But like once a guy came and he said the whole transport where my brother was, they shut the whole group where he was supposed to be. They shut the whole. So how can you believe people? But one day, I remember December 6th, I got a letter from my brother. He was in Szczecin, in Poland. And he writes to me, pack up your stuff and come here. You know something, this was December 6th. And 2 days later, I was on the train to Poland. At that time, it wasn't so easy to, you know, usually from I was liberated in Dachau, and they opened up a camp in Landsberg. They opened up a DP camp, and I lived in that Landsberg. And usually from Landsberg to Landsberg was near Munich, to Szczecin probably takes maybe 2-3 hours by plane. By plane, yeah. But, you know, it took me 2 weeks to get to Poland. And I had to smuggle, I didn't even know how to go. So I went to Czechoslovakia, then to Czechoslovakia, to Prague, and I had no more money. I had no more money for tickets for the railroad tickets. I had no more money, so I went to the Polish repatriation. They had some organization, repatriation, a Polish repatriation organization. So, and I went there. They gave me money to go back to buy the tickets, and I went to Poland, and then I went to up. So I landed on the south because I was in Czechoslovakia. I went on the south. So I went from the south. My brother was on Szczecin. It's all the way up in the north. So I had to go up from Poland all the way there.
By train?
By train. And you know, the Polacks, you know, you were sitting with them in the train, and they ask you, they talk to you, where were you, and I was really afraid to tell them that I'm Jewish. So I had to make up stories that I was caught. The Germans caught me, and they made me work in Germany. I didn't tell them that I was in concentration camp. But that's how I met my brother. Okay, I came to Poland. My brother was married already. Yeah, people married very fast, you know. And you know something? They married right after the war. They married, and you know, people from two different worlds. You know, people that you would never think that those people can live together. You know, because they were such two different backgrounds. But you know something? Of all the Holocaust survivors, I don't know one couple, not one couple that got divorced. They all, you know, like now, you know, like there is 50% divorces, right? I don't know one couple and from such a different background. But this is what happened. So when I came back, I was in Poland only a few days, and then we went back to Berlin. From Berlin, I came to the west, in Heinheim. They opened up another DP camp, and I lived there with my brother, sister-in-law, and her family survived. The whole family survived in Russia. So they had parents and 5 children, and my brother married one of the girls there, and they were all very close relationship, and they lived together, and that's how. And then I married in Munich. I married in 1949.
Okay.
My husband lived in Munich.
So you must have been there at the same time.
No, I was born in 47 and we left by 49.
Yeah, and I got married in 49, and my oldest son was born in 1950.
1950.
And 1951 we came to the States.
More or less the same path. So let me, just because the tape is running, because this has a really importance that I didn't appreciate when I even sat down. We didn't ask you at the beginning. Why don't you, for the tape, say your name, what your maiden name was, when you were born, where you were born, and what your parents' names were.
Okay, my name is Rachela. My maiden name is Brauner. My father's name was Abraham Brauner. My mother's name was Fela Brauner. I had 3 brothers. David Brauner, who's the only surviving brother. My second brother was Shia Brauner. He lived until the end of the war, but he did not survive. My youngest brother went together with my parents to Treblinka. Yeah, Jankel Brauner. And I was born in Częstochowa. We all come from Częstochowa.
Okay. Well, thank you. I could keep you all day with questions, but I think it's...
Yeah, that's okay. If I remember the question, you know, certain things, I just can't get rid of, you know. I have them, you know, I live with it.
You know, for whatever reason, my parents, my father lived till he was 90. My mother passed away when she was 65,
Oh,
but she died young. And in a way, it was every day to hear about the Holocaust, and in a way, I never asked questions like this. You know, I never could. And I appreciate your being so open with me, because to me, this is a connection to my past that I don't have. Thank you.
yeah, I wish I could give you some better information, but
It's okay.
But that's what it is. And let me tell you something. The reason I survived was only because I wanted to survive to tell the world what the German beasts, what beasts they were, what they did to people, to innocent to such great people, such noble people, so many great Jews, so many scientists, doctors, so many. The world they would do so much good for the world, and that's how I only wanted to survive to tell the world what they did. But you know something? When the war ended,
Nobody wanted to hear it.
I don't know. I don't know if nobody wanted to hear it. Probably you are probably right. Nobody wanted to hear, but I couldn't talk. It's as if someone closed my mouth. It took me many years. You know, when my oldest son was 3 years old, we lived here in New York already, and I remember it was Thanksgiving Day. And you know, he had a lot of friends, and all his friends had relatives, and Thanksgiving Day is a day, a family day, and they all got together with the family, and he had nobody to play with. So all his friends, their aunts and uncles came, and grandmas and grandpas, and he asked me, "Where is my grandma and grandpa? Why don't I have a grandma and grandpa?" This was the hardest question for me. What am I going to tell that little kid? And he was really a bright kid. What am I going to tell that little kid? So I told him, there was a wicked man who wanted to kill all the Jews, and he killed them. And I was very lucky that I survived, and we hope to continue to be good people. And that was my answer. And I was hoping that he'll never ask me questions like that again. And he didn't. I mean, he was a bright kid. He understood. He understood he probably understood the pain. But it took me many years to be able to talk to him.
Well, now you're able to tell the story very well, better than they ever met. I don't know if
Really?
you ever had a chance to do this, but...
No, but I'll tell you, when it came out when I got the letter from the Spielberg Foundation, yeah. I was the first one to answer them. I think I was the first one to give them because I remember this is why I survived. I wanted so badly to be able to talk, to be able to tell the story. And this is what made me really open up my.
Well, I'm glad.
This is what really made me, and that's what. And something, someone asked me. Now they were doing a class in college. This was a class. They were doing the dissertation on Holocaust, and this professor asked me, could I help her out? Just questions. They just wanted to know how I related to my children, how I related to life, And I remember, and I agreed. I said I'll help her out, and they only wanted these questions. Do you know that? And it's unbelievable that as psychologists, these are psychologists that they don't. Everybody everybody asked me the same question. First of all, this professor asked me, the first question was, do you talk to your children about the Holocaust? Now this goes back many, many years. I said no. And she said, why don't you talk to your children? Why don't you talk to your children? And don't they understand? And I think to myself, if she's a psychologist, can she understand how does it affect, how this can affect young children? And then in the class they asked me the same question. They asked me the same question. And I said to one of them, I said, I just gave them an example. How would you react? Would you be able to talk to your children, to tell your children what you expect me to tell my children? If your parents would go through what I went through, if your parent would be tortured, and her entire family was murdered by the Germans, would you be able to tell your children? Wouldn't you be afraid to talk to your children about it? No, and these are professional psychologists, and go figure out.
Yeah, well, they're learning. Thank you. Maybe I would like, I don't want to impose anything, I would like Carol to meet you. Maybe sometime when you're in Teaneck we can get together.
Yes, why not?
We'll invite you to our home, or we'll come see you in Teaneck.
Yeah, good. Come see me anytime. I would love to meet your but tell me about your family. Where do you live?
Um,
No, I just probably made up a story about them, and I got maybe I just don't know. But there was, yeah, and my brother said that your father got him out of that yatka, and of that yatka nobody.
Yeah.
Very few people came out of that.
See, and my mother always was angry because he never, when he had a chance to do this kind of thing, he was doing this for the members of his group, people who were fighters in the underground, and he didn't do it for relatives. I mean, he had to make a choice.
Yes, yeah, so
I'm
sure he did for relatives also good.
He did good for relatives, but only a few. He didn't only.
So how many relatives did you have does he come from a big...
Well, my father came from Pietrków, so his whole family, there are a few survivors, a few. My mother's side, she survived, her sister Esther survived, and Sigmund was the son of her very close brother.
Just a minute, Sigmund of her brother, so their name was...
Rosenblatt.
Right, I knew her. They had I always thought that they had, Mrs. Rosenblatt had a sister. I thought this was her sister that lived with them.
Yeah, Tanya.
Elka was her
I
name.
don't know Elka. There was a sister Tanya that lived, a maiden aunt who lived with my mother. Who helped
it's
take
your
care
mother.
of my
It's
mother.
your mother. No, I'm talking about
I don't know.
Sigmund's brother, mother.
I don't know.
Okay.
But so what happened was Sigmund was always part of the household even before the war. His parents were very close. They vacationed together.
And where did your parents live? Do you know?
Garibaldi's.
Garibaldiego.
Yeah.